Hello there, TarotTube. Welcome, or welcome back, as they say. And today is going to be a little bit of a ramble, and I'm putting this up on YouTube because I'm hoping that people will see it and decide to participate in a positive way, and maybe help me out with this, with your thoughts and your ideas, as I consider how I am going to construct my personal view about what I'm now going to call face cards instead of court cards in the tarot. So in a previous video, two of them, I called through my collection. I pulled out everything that doesn't meet my personal criteria of being inclusive. So while some people are taking away DEI, I'm putting DEI back in. It's important to me. So you can take a look at that if you're interested. I will link those at the end and in the description below. And as I start this conversation, I just want to say that before I did this, I listened to a lecture by Tara Brach in which she discusses many things, but one of the things that was resonating with me was the idea about hierarchy and how hierarchy, which is inherent in patriarchy, gets us into trouble, because it helps us to other people and to think that we are better than or less than. So that is one of the things that I'm going to be bringing to this conversation for myself, which is how can we, I don't know if we can eliminate hierarchy, but in my own personal worldview, how can I keep that to an absolute minimum? Because that's what stops me from feeling connected with the world and my community. Is that idea of hierarchy, who's better, who's worse, who's other, who's different. So that's a big ask. And I think we have to start with, now I'm going to pull in a different tarot to have a little illustration while I talk about this. I think we have to start with, most of us use the RWS, the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, or some clone or different version of that. And I was thinking about, well, how do we get there? Like, what is up with that? Why were they so taken with the idea of medieval times? You know, like, what's all that about? Why are we all about the kings, the queens, the lords and ladies and all of that? You know what? Let me just pull out one of those while we're talking about it. So I don't even have a really good one. I just have this cheap one that came with some body care product that was given to me. Like, I would never spend money on this. Ooh, did I say that out loud? Yeah, I did. Okay. Like, why? What is the charm and the delight in this, that these people in the when was that? Like 1910, I think, is when it was published. Why was this what they reached out for to use? All white, very hierarchical, very much, I just don't get it. And I've noticed that people, I'm rambling, but there's a point to all of this. And then I've noticed that people like to talk about how Pamela Coleman Smith may have had African ancestry, and somehow that makes this better in some way. But I just don't get it. I mean, what was going on at that time in history? Wasn't there a really big suffragist movement happening? People were fighting for the vote. Hadn't slavery really very recently in their lifetimes, some of those people, ended? You know, there were former slaves alive at that time. So why was this what they were idealizing and putting out there as, oh, this is how we're going to look at society. This is how we're going to look at our inner landscape. Why? I don't see. And why are we doing it 100 years later? I think it's time to let go of that. So remember, at that time, archaeological digs and okay, let me back up and say another thing about this is, let's not forget, this came out of the UK, or let's just call it Britain, which at that time was still very much in its colonial glory. And that's what this is rooted in. And so I think you have to ask yourself, is that really what resonates with you? I suspect that if you consider, it probably doesn't. Because at the same time that this is going on, people are, you know, questionably, you know, looking at ancient civilizations and considering that. So here is some artwork from the Minoan Tarot, which is a treat that I got myself when I culled so many decks out of my collection. But let's look at this. Now, she has colored these in, Laura Perry has colored these. The women all have this white skin tone and the men all have this darker skin tone, because that's what this ancient civilization in Crete did. That's how so she recreated this, although this is her original art, in the style of this. So why would they not, why not reach out and look at this instead, is my question. Was it about ancestry? Did they feel really connected to that medieval Renaissance ancestry instead of some other time period? Maybe they did, but I don't see why we have to. I don't feel, I mean, it's one thing if it's a party that you go to at medieval times. I've done that, but that's fooling around. So I don't want that in my tarot. Nope, nope, nope. So let's take a look at what I came up with. So first, and I have no idea why I put it in this order, because here's hierarchy again, right? The top is the king and then the queen, So, you know, that's how deeply ingrained it is. Even when I'm trying to deconstruct this and to think critically, I'm still defaulting to this hierarchical category. But because I'm trying to think of these as face cards now, and I'm trying to rethink the whole thing. These are decks that I have in my collection. I own them. So I started looking at different names. So let's see, which one should I start with? So this is also, I got myself 2 new decks to kind of fill out the gaps in my existing collection after I empty them out. So this is Magical Nature. So here we have Ancestor, Mentor, Apprentice, Seeker. And in the Herb Crafters, and I talk about this in another video, we have, I'm going to go for the English translation. We have healers, mothers, warriors, and daughters. Now, these are all female figures in this deck. And then for the Spirit Keepers Tarot, my personal favorite deck, we have archangels, shields, shining ones, and heralds. Now, I really like these, but they are kind of specific to this deck, and I know not everybody has a connection with angel language or constructs, so this would not work for everybody, and it works for me beautifully in this deck, but it wouldn't translate to other decks. So in the Gentle Tarot, another example of something that works for me, I have it right here. So if you're not familiar with it, but you probably are, if you're here in the weeds with me. Oops, a little noisy there. See, it's just, you could see how it would work. DEI gets the cut with this, right? So in this one, she's calling this harvest, flower, root, and seed. So very earth, nature-centered. Although she's got humans and animals in this, the way she's categorizing her face cards, it's more about plants. Again, it works. It wouldn't translate to every deck. In the Witch's Wisdom, Phyllis Curot's deck, we have Goddess, Craftsman, Witch, and Messenger. So a couple of these terms are gendered, and they're flipped, right? This is what you might think of as the king, and this is what you might think of as the queen, which could be either. Messenger could be either. We'll come back to this. See this heralds and messengers? This idea is where I'm going with this first face card. And see, can I even call it first? I mean, trying to get rid of hierarchical language is a real challenge. All right, the Tarot of the Divine, we have Ruler, Heart, Messenger, and Future, and I don't know what this creator was thinking to put messenger here instead of here. That absolutely does not work for me. But maybe it's the movement of this card. I don't know. For Shining Tribe, Rachel Pollak's, we have speaker, gift, knower, and place. And they used vision cards as how they categorized this group of cards. The crone was wasteland, grandmother, witch, and beasts. I feel like this is very much for that deck. I don't see how it translates for me. Dark goddess was hag, witch, siren, and Amazon. Super fun terms that really work for this deck. Again, they don't really translate. Now in the Hoodoo Tarot, which I'm going to revisit in February because it is, I think we're still calling it Black History Month. I don't think it's been renamed. So that's this deck. If you don't have it, haven't seen it. It's interesting because they're doing it like almost like well, it is not almost, a family structure. So they're saying mother, father, daughter, son, and in this family, it would be like a matriarchal system, I believe. Witch Sister Tarot, which passes the DEI muster, but the language on these cards I do not care for at all. I don't know why she did this, but she stuck with king, queen, witch, and maid, which I don't agree. I'm not sure what her thought processes were. For Hoxa, she went with elder, queen, knight, and page. Yeah, I don't care for that language, although I really like the deck. And then this is the last two decks that in my collection that I've referenced. So for the Sufi, this is probably not as well known, this deck, which is based on Sufi religious construct, organization, something. We have Shah, which is really king, Malika, son, and daughter. So again, works for this deck in a very traditional way of talking about things, but really hierarchical. I don't care for it. And finally, the Majestic Earth, which this comes up in my conversation a lot, this Majestic Earth deck. And I do apologize because it's out of print and I don't know that it will ever come back in print. So it's very expensive. I keep hoping that somebody will come up with a mass market version of it, but it hasn't happened yet. Anyway, I digress. So for Majestic Earth, they use spirit, creature, rider, and steward. And this one works for me. Again, I'm just talking about me personally. So there's my little date. That was when I finished making up this chart. So that was my summary of those. And then I went to ChatGPT. All right, I'm only just now starting to experiment with AI because I ignored it for a while. I was like, maybe if I just close my eyes, it will go away. It's not going away. So I'm trying to figure out how to make it work for me instead of the other way around. Anyway, so I asked ChatGPT, and this is what I asked for: non-gendered neutral titles. And here's what they're suggesting that could work across all decks while maintaining the essence of each card. Now, why do I want to maintain the essence? I'm not sure that I 100% do. However, I do believe in the collective unconscious. And so if there are millions of tarot card readings happening and people are consistently tapping into these essences, I don't want to ignore that as a thing that's out there. And I do believe that. So here's what their suggestions were. So scholar, apprentice, messenger, explorer, seeker, initiate, and pioneer. I really think I'm probably going to go with messenger. And part of that is because I spent so much time studying Benabel Wen's holistic tarot. And in her approach, if you pull this card, you put it back into the deck. Well, this is one thing you can do. You treat it as a messenger. It's bringing you more information. It's an invitation to dig deeper somehow. And then you take that card, you put it back into the deck, and you use that to find another card to add to your reading. And I like that technique, and I don't always do it, but I like having that option. And for me, that's why I'm probably going to keep the messenger idea. Then for the next card, we have these suggestions: Seeker, Traveler, Champion, Adventurer, Warrior, Quester, and Defender. It's a first take, and I may change. Obviously, I'm going to change. I chose Adventurer. Now, part of that is because I love playing RPG games, and those characters, they're adventurers. They're out there having a quest, and I like the idea of questing. An adventurer is, I feel like, a neutral, non-gendered way of talking about people who are on quests, and it just works for me today. This is something I'm going to be considering for a while now. And like I said, trying to make these non-hierarchical so that each one of these has got its essence, its character, but one's not necessarily better than the other. That's a challenge. All right, on to this one. Now, I personally tend to think of this essence as nurturing, but also being something of a leader. So maybe sort of a resource. Guide, yes, but guide doesn't take, there is some expertise and experience involved in this essence. Yeah, the jury is out on this. I just don't know, but you know, on my first look, these two were my choices. Now, I originally thought with this one, ruler was the way I wanted to go. But ruler is a very hierarchical term. That's very, you know, there's a pyramid and there's one person up at the top here. And I'm not sure that that's how I want to think about the ruler, because that implies that all the other people in that pyramid are not this. And I would prefer to think that whoever is in this position got elevated there by virtue of the other people acknowledging that they had the qualities that made them that, not that they got there by birth or something else. Yeah, so that's, you know, I don't really know. And then, like, Patriarch obviously is out. Visionary, a visionary could be anywhere in this, right? So it's not necessarily that. I don't like Master. That kind of it gives me the ick. I'm cringing a little bit with that word. And Guardian, I kind of think of more as this essence. So I don't know where I'm going with this. If you've got any great ideas, just, you know, please let me know. So Shaw, Spirit, maybe. Let's see what else we've got here. Ancestor. You know, Ancestor's not bad, actually. That's a possibility. Oh, also, I forgot to say, in this one, she calls them coven cards. But I'm going to go with face cards. Let's see. Healer, Archangel, Harvest, Goddess, Ruler, Speaker. Possibly. Wasteland. No. Hag, Mother, King, and Elder. Not bad. Not bad. All right, so let me add those in here. Let me just add that. And I think that's the end of my introduction to this. Obviously, I'm going to be coming back to it because I'm not done. And right. And let's just say that the patriarchy is what got us here with this thing. And I would guess that most of the people who would watch a video on my channel are not big fans of the patriarchy. So this is an invitation to reconsider this language, to reconsider these concepts, this patriarchal hierarchy. I mean, hey, ho, ho, the patriarchy's got to go. Let's do it together. So if you have any great ideas that would help me out, let me know. Yeah, I would appreciate that. And if you just think this is an interesting conversation, there's going to be more. I'm not done. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and let's see where this takes us. I invite you to join me on this little journey. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.